This week on Tecumseh Whitetail Nation, we're headed to far South Texas to Campos Viejos. That's Big Buck. That's Hardy Jackson's place, and there are some giants on that place. And Hardy does an incredible job of managing it, as evidenced by what he grows on that ranch.
Year after year, he kills bigger and bigger deer. So you guys are going to enjoy this week's episode on Tecumseh Whitetail Nation.
This ranch had its beginnings actually on my ranch, El Cazador Ranch. Hardy and Richard were hunting with me, and I told Richard during the middle of the day one day, I said, I've got to run down and look at a ranch I just bought down there and see how we're coming on some of the improvements that I was doing on that ranch. And Richard said, well, I'd like to go with you and see what you're doing down there. And I said, okay, come on. We went down there. And Richard looked at it and he commented a little bit, but he didn't say a whole lot. We got back to El Cazador, and Richard says, if I bought that from you, do you think we'd shoot a 170 every now and again? I says, well, I do think you can grow a 170 in there. It's going to take some time. And Richard ultimately went ahead, and him and Hardy bought it.
It was always my father's dream to have a piece of property and us manage it for trophy whitetails. Originally, that dream was going to be in Georgia, and when we started hunting with David and Gary and realized that you could do food plots in South Texas, this became a no-brainer for us. This was the obvious answer as far as where we wanted to be and where we wanted to try to manage a place for trophy deer. When we purchased the property in 2001, there were very little deer on it. We installed food plots, water holes, supplemental feeding stations, and quickly built that population to close to 250 to 300 animals. In the process, we micromanaged, if you will, by culling and selecting the deer that we wanted to move forward and move up into age classes.
And at a point in time, as they moved those bucks, those first 2 or 3 big year classes up into the 5, 6, and 7s, we saw the magic was coming. And that place began to develop into an incredible world-class place.
Well, and you mentioned it as well, the heart of that management was the Lab.
Yes, it was.
And Lab, if you've watched our shows in Tecumseh before, we know how important Lab is, especially to Texas, but we use it in the Southeast as well. But the protein, the bypass protein there, the phosphorus
levels off the chart.
Yes. It's one of the best plants, if not the best plants for antler development
that we've ever tested.
Absolutely. And he's got 150 acres of it.
It's virtually unlimited nutrition.
Right.
It really is. The combination of early culling and then the incredible nutrition turned that place into, those are super bucks. Hardy has shot some bucks that when you hold them in your hands, you just marvel at the mass, at the spread, at just everything about them is oversized.
That's right.
Oversized.
You know, it's a very special year here at Campos Viejos. Not only are our deer maybe even better than they've ever been overall as far as our deer herd, but after several years, Mom and I have talked about it, and we've gone back and forth, you know, again, for 3 or 4 seasons now, and we've decided that it's time for us to sell the ranch. Yes, there's some sadness to that, but overall, this is a positive thing. This is a good thing. We've done it. We exceeded, not just met, but we exceeded every goal we ever set out to get here.
One thing that I think I feel so good about is our deer. They're native Texas deer, and that's something we're very proud of. We took what was here and made it better through management, through agriculture, through being sure that everything was well taken care of, that there was water available. I feel like I tell people, what are the 2 most important things in deep South Texas? And I say water and tires. You have to be very careful because things, there's a lot of things with stickers on it, and that's when the tires come in. But I think because we worked as a team and we had a plan and we followed it and we appreciated what we had achieved. All of that made it worthwhile, and it made it hard to decide that it was time to say goodbye. But in a very practical and meaningful way, we know it is time to say goodbye.
if you learn anything from wildlife management, it's that you always have to adapt. You always have to figure out some way to make something even better than what it is. And that's one of the things that I've been really proud that we've been able to do here. You know, and it's because of that change, that ability to adapt, that we have seen an incredible movement in our upper age class males.
They're just absolute giants. I mean, and the frames on some of those deer, to see Richard realize his dream. He told me one day, he said, David, when we started this project, I never dreamed this place could be what it is. And he killed at least 2 over 200 before he passed, and some other giant bucks. So he got to see it, not only the 170 now and again, as Richard said, he got to see 170s, 180s, 200s, and I still marvel today that that place is what it is. It is unbelievable. It's one of the best, by Texas standards, 1,000 acres is considered fairly small South Texas ranch. I will say without question, it is probably the best ranch of that size for wild native deer of any ranch in South Texas. Those are incredible bucks there. He killed a 230 2 or 3 years ago that looked like he came from Kansas.
I know it.
Comes around the corner, I can't believe it. I go through every mistake that I get on my hunters making. We're changing chairs, I'm beating and framming. I think I hit the gun on the window. I mean, if it can be done, I did it. Breathing hard, you probably hear my heart beating at some point. So finally, I get calmed down and get the gun up, and he turns, and every time he would turn, he'd kind of be quartered to me, and that big rack would turn in, and every time he'd turn his head a little bit, the rack would go right in front of where I was going to shoot. I don't want to shoot his antler off. So it took a while, but anyway, he finally gets turned right. Felt good. We get down and we film the recovery, and he's right there. He didn't go anywhere. 2 solid months chasing this guy around this ranch. Everybody tells you this is easy. Every deer is different. All deer have different personalities, just like people do. And we should have called him Ghost, because number one, we hardly ever saw him until January, as it was. And then this year, the sucker starts showing up fairly regular and on camera. We get a cameraman here in October, and here it is December the 18th, 17th, 18th. Second time I've laid eyes on him in the daylight, and I got my hands on him finally. 80 days of pursuing this guy made it that much sweeter. 5 years ago, my dad passed away, and I killed, at that time, one of the biggest deer ever, a 206-inch typical that we call Junior. He's the most perfect 200-inch typical on the planet. At that time, I felt like we had done everything we had come here to do. 5 years later, this deer shows up out of nowhere. I mean, we knew he was big, but he was 190s last year. He's never been anything like this. We've never had a deer like this. I told David I felt like he would eclipse 220. He scored 220 with 9 inches broken. Yeah, this is all native Starr County genetics right here. This is what happens when you put nutrition and age on what's already here. These deer are big. The 3 and 4 and 5 year olds on this ranch are insane, especially the 4-year-old age class. I've never had an age class like that. So if you think this looks good, just stay tuned. It's gonna get even better.
What's pretty cool about those deer as well, yes, they all have big frames and lots of mass, but so many of them are unique. Like you mentioned, the big 10, I mean, just a crazy deer. Then Hardy's killed some deer with just stuff everywhere. I mean, and then I know
he killed that double roe buck last year.
I know.
That thing was like 225 or 223.
Crazy looking deer.
Like, I don't know how wide he was, 27 or 8 inches wide.
Big.
Massive with a double row of tines, just tines everywhere.
Good night. You tell me.
steps out right in the middle of that sendero, just pretty as you please, perfectly broadside. You couldn't have asked for anything more. I cannot wait to see how big this deer is. I felt the shot felt good. He acted like he was hit hard, obviously. He lurched up. So we're gonna give him a few minutes and then we'll head down there and see what happened. But got the new Bergara, broke it in, first deer. That's a pretty good one for a first deer for the new rifle. We thought last year was a fluke. You know, David and I talked about it, and I mean, we've killed some giant deer. We've been very, very lucky. But last year's deer, pushing 230, that deer was, you know, we just figured that was a once in a lifetime thing. And he is, but when you manage deer the right way, when you give them year-round nutrition, you know, nearly 200 acres of lab a year on 1,000 acres, it's becoming evident that you can continue to do this year after year after year. And this deer is going to probably push or exceed what that deer from last year did. It doesn't matter, score doesn't matter, but beyond anything Dad and I ever dreamed of, ever could have dreamed of right there. It's just incredible.
Jeez, what a deer.
Oh my goodness, man.
Look at this thing. There's nothing small about that deer. Look at that. Man, he has got it all. I mean, he's got it all. What a monster. What a monster. I mean, I don't know what else you can ask for, but he's got it. Mass, length, spread. You know, this was my father's dream, and it was both of our dreams. But my dad worked his tail off his whole life so that we could have this place and do this. And to be able to continue it in his honor, he passed away in 2013, and I know he's looking down on me because we killed some of the biggest dadgum deer since he passed away, and you know, it's all for you, Dad. It always has been. But what another great deer. What a great time. Thank you, Ty. That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome. So it's been a rough year for hunting and for seeing deer in general. Early, you know, the heat was pretty bad. We only had one cold front and it came through in October. So I was really running my Reconyx cameras a lot, trying to find these bigger deer that I knew we had, I knew were here. It was a fairly slow morning, and all of a sudden, right next to the blind, out steps this giant mainframe 8. He smoked. Yeah, he didn't go far. He was falling already. God, what a monster. Wow. What a giant. So, if this is the last one, that's a pretty dadgum good one. God, dog. I knew he didn't go far off the Sendero. You're on the edge of it. He is absolutely huge. Better than we thought. You gotta go out. That's a pretty good one to go out with. I said that about the last one. This guy's almost as good, if not better, just as far as amazing character. What a huge mainframe 8. Of all the things I ever dreamed of, me personally as a hunter, that 170 inch 8-point mark was something I felt like couldn't be accomplished. I mean, it just was, there was too much luck involved. And I felt very fortunate to have obtained what I had. But when I started looking at this buck, when I started looking at the mass and the beam length on this deer, I knew there was a chance. The 170-inch 8-point is kind of that mythical number. This deer, I knew he was going to be close, but as a mainframe typical 8, this deer grossed just over 170 inches. I don't know if I've ever been so excited about a deer in my life as when that number hit. Again, it's just a number. It really shouldn't maybe mean that much, but growing up, that was always a goal. That was always a dream that I had, and here it was in my hands. He's been around a long time. We hadn't really seen him other than in the ground blind the other day, and I wasn't sure who he was, and once we figured it out, this deer's old. He's 7 or 8 years old. His mainframe is down, but he also got a drop time this year, some kickers. Just a heck of a whitetail, and you know, why not? If you're gonna end it in style. So, heck of a deer. Very fortunate to get him this morning. You know, anytime you make a life-changing decision like this, there are positives and negatives. You know, there's gonna be some sadness. There'll be so many things here that I miss. And of course, so many of my friends tell me I'm crazy for doing it. But then again, so many of my friends and my father's friends told us we were all crazy for doing this the first time, even coming out here. You know, this has been the best thing that we ever did. Certainly the best thing that I ever did. And now it's time to hand this to someone else. You know, probably the place I'm the most fortunate is that my father handed all of this down to me. Whether it was hunting, whether it was just the opportunity for me to get to do what I love to do. And that's part of this decision.
The decision to sell this place, to sell the ranch, would be a decision my husband would have liked. It showed we accomplished what we set out to do. We enjoyed it. We have years of loving to be here, and now it's time for someone else to have that opportunity.
I've heard so many people say now that this is done that you know, your dad would have been proud. Your dad would be proud. I know he would be. I've said it before, I'll say it again. How many people are given what my father gave to me? So I felt like, you know, Mom and I took this after he passed away 7 years ago and not just kept it going, but took it to the next level. Took it to where he would have taken it had he been here. And I know that if he could see it, he'd be awfully proud of that. I'll never forget the first time we ever sat down as a family to discuss what we were doing here. We'd already bought it, but we sat down to talk about selling hunts and all of that to help, you know, help with the costs of maintaining a place like this. And I'll never forget the words my dad said, which was, the minute this isn't fun anymore, let's do something else. And to me, that's life. You know, if you're not enjoying it, if you're not doing it for the right reasons, man, let's go do something else. Let's find what is. I mean, it's a big world. There's a lot to do out there, you know, and you know, the great thing about goals are once you've reached them, once you've achieved them or exceeded them, it's time to make some more, you know, and that's my challenge now. That's our challenge now as a family.